Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on Monday. Of course, we are talking all things friends and supporters of Cork Greyhound Racing Irish Laurels. We'll also give a mention to the RPGTV Juvenile Derby and indeed the Yvonne Barry 600 from Shelburne Park. But it was all about Curraheen Park on Saturday night. We saw a track record, we saw shocks, we saw brilliant performances from start to finish. More importantly, well, we potentially saw what we did. We saw the Laurels champion. It's just a case of finding him or her, shall I say. I'm joined this morning by the exile dub, as always, Tommy Lyons from his Yall base. And Eoin Walsh is joining us, a man who has, well, written quite a few words about Greyhound racing over the years. Eoin, you're very welcome indeed to the podcast. You were in Curraheen Park on Saturday night. A wonderful night's racing.
It was, yeah. It was an absolute brilliant night's racing. We had everything. Track records broken. Few of the hot pads went out. You know, it was absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely one of the best Laurels I've seen for quite a long time. And there are still, I'd say, half dozen that could win it outright.
Yeah. Tommy, it was something you suggested last week that this was a very strong Laurels in terms of depth. You know, as Eoin suggested there, we saw some big names crashing out. You know, Bacchus Buds had set the standard in the opening round. Now, he was in a red-hot heat, a heat that would have been fitting for the final itself. But, you know, you missed the kick and you're gone.
Yeah. And that's kind of the beauty of it in one way. I know it'll frustrate people, but that's the beauty of it. You know, around a fast 5.25, you can't afford any mistakes whatsoever. He went from doing a 3:15, to which, to my mind, is probably a record last week, to missing it slightly. He actually ran well. He worked his socks off to try and qualify, and just to do a 3. It's very unusual when you have 4 exceptionally good dogs. We were talking about the heat last week. We were talking about it in Curraheen Saturday night, saying things like, you know, there are 4 greyhounds in this heat capable of breaking 28 seconds.
They were the top 4 they were the top 4 in the outright betting.
Top 4 in the outright betting, all capable of breaking 28 seconds. And what's very unusual about it is they finish first, second, third, and fourth, because normally what happens is there's some of them in there entirely dependent upon breaking and being in front, and if they don't, they're going to fade away and finish last. No, Bacchus Butzer finished fourth and actually worked his socks off to qualify. It just wasn't good enough because you couldn't afford to make a mistake in it. We had 3 dogs breaking 28 seconds the other night. I mean, the Laurels came alive on Saturday night. It came alive. And the beauty is, I've looked at it with a view to the rest of the competition, and it doesn't look like it can fall apart, if you know what I mean. What I mean by that is that you know, next week there's a load of upsets and all of a sudden you've only got maybe one top dog left. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that can happen in the Laurels. It's going to carry through to the final, which is what we want. I mean, it literally, I know we've talked about this in the past, Ian. We've said it on this on this program in the past. I'm entirely convinced that breaking 28 seconds will be nothing in, you know, 6-8 months' time. Like, it'll just happen so regularly we won't even talk about it. But this really came alive. There were big performances, even though Droopys Edison was clear on the clock and it was a track record and a brilliant run. He's still not even favoured to win the competition.
Yeah, I'm going to bring you back to something you just said there about the record, the split record. I got an email last week. Yes, indeed, people email in. Dennis Keller emailed in. Enjoyed the review of the Laurels. Just a clarification on the split record, and purely a shout out to the late Christy O'Callaghan. Look up Sleek Bill, who was trained by Christy, who recorded 3:15 in September 2003. These kind of things stay with a lad who is a big admirer of the same man. So thanks, Dennis, for getting in touch. And I did look it up. Sleek Bill did indeed record a 3:15 in Curraheen Park. So we're gonna officially put it down as a joint record. Last week, Bacchus books at 3:15. If you could save that 3:15 for the final, Eoin, it'd be lovely. You could pick your greyhound, put that 3:15 on their card, and you could go just collect your money. Eoin, we'll kick off the opening heat. Gary Vo Joe was a dog he really started to fall in love with around Shelburne Park. He improved considerably through his various races. He did something strange in the final of the Michael Fortune Memorial Plate, the Derby Plate. Moved completely off from Trap 1 in the final, got knocked over. It hasn't had a toll on him because he produced a massive run in this opening heat, 28-18 last week. On this occasion, bingo, away and gone, 27-99. You know, the Maloney family have another potential superstar.
Yeah, they've bred a lot of nice dogs over the last few years, and they all stopped and stayed. They're very, very good trackers, and he really put it all together on Saturday night. And talking to Pat after, he said, none of his previous dogs have done what he has done at this age.
Yeah,
he said he's one of the best he ever had, and he he flashed out on Saturday night and 3:25 split, 16 seconds to the top end. And yeah, he was coming back a bit, I suppose, coming home, but the one that was behind him is very, very strong still. Ballymac she took over at the top end from one time only last year's winner, and she reduced the lead to a couple of lengths at the line, but he wasn't going to be caught on the night, and he tracked through beautifully and did everything to perfection. And he's a dog who's going to have a big say, even though he is a tough enough draw, I suppose, the next night out to 5.
It's safe to say if he does 27.99 any night, he's not going to be picked up, right?
No,
you know, whether he's going back to them or
Yeah.
not. Ballymac is a bit of an aeroplane in second. I thought she was a real eye catcher in the opening round. I thought another eye catcher the other night. One time only, just doesn't seem to be firing quite like he did last year.
He's not the dog he was last year, and he's just. It was a 5-dog race on Saturday night. Curraheen Lass was an honour. I suppose it suited the Ballymac pitch very well. You know, she had no interference whatsoever, and she did really run on it in the closing stages. But as we said last time, he's only a shadow of what he was last year. So he has a bad draw as well. Next round, he's out in 6. So, he's going to find it tough to progress unless he can find some of his old form.
Given his trajectory, Gary Vojo, though, looks the dog to follow of these three.
Yeah. He's likely raced, and he's doing everything right, and he seems to love Curraheen Park. Ran the bin perfection on Saturday night. Like you said about the final in Dublin, he moved off for some unknown reason. They just couldn't understand it because they thought he was drawn to perfection in that consolation. But he's getting it all together now. It would be lovely to see another local winner of the Laurels, not begrudging anybody else to win it, but too nice to see Pat win it. He's put a lot of time and effort into dogs in the last 20 years. And, he doesn't have great luck when it comes to the big ones, but hopefully this is his time.
Tommy, is it Barry Drake we're talking to, or Eoin Walsh there? Huh? Supporting the love that causes. I love it. For what Owen said there, you hinted at it last week as well. For the Maloney family who have had likes of Sonic and Wolf and Gary Vo, Bobby, dogs like this, like 3 absolute worldies, and to say that this fellow's ahead of them at this point in his career is some statement.
He is, like, he's a half brother to Wolf, who won an Easter Cup for the Maloney family.
And it was very much like that. They finally won one, they landed the big prize. And even just Wolf alone, never mind the Maloney family, for Wolf alone to win it. And here we are with his half brother, a potential superstar.
And I said it to the Maloney's and to Graham Holland, just kind of half joking, but like I said, wouldn't the second Easter Cup be lovely? Because he strikes me as a type of dog that when he gets a bit of a winter break could come back a sensational greyhound altogether. I mean, his 3:25 the other night, it looked quicker. His 16 seconds down to third bed. I'm inclined to think that sectional, he can improve upon that. It was early in the night. I just wondered, did the track get a little bit faster through the night, a little bit later on? Because the first 4 heats, and you can pick holes in maybe some of the dogs or the way the races were run or whatever else, and say something. But I'm inclined to upgrade that run a little bit now. I'll be honest about it. Even better than 27.99. Imagine the dam. Jalingo has had 121. The winners of 121 races. Yeah, that's fairly serious stuff. She's been.
I'd say Wolf was a fair percentage of them. He's probably at about 20 of them.
No, she's had all litters. All litters. Seriously good, like.
Yeah, she was a seriously good dam. And one thing they all have is brute pace. There's there's no hiding it. They all have an engine. Ballymac in second spot, Tommy. This was one I contemplated backing each way last week. I didn't, and looking at the results afterwards, going, as it gets hotter, this actually might suit her. Just sitting in behind, she's a very, very fast lady. She's going to lack the yard of early. That's the problem. One time only, he definitely doesn't seem to be the dog he was.
No, and there's no hiding place. It is a red hot Laurels, and you just can't afford to be 99% here. Ballymac was in a perfect position down the back to get close to Gary Vojo if she was good enough. It's that lack of pace.
He is doing 27.99 in fairness to me.
No. I know that. But Ballymac did 28.18 in Shelburne Park off of 2:30. 2:30 is like a 3:60 in Curraheen Park. Like it's a slow section. Like, she's extremely capable. What I mean is, she was close enough to get a bit closer than she finished. It was 3 lengths. It's still a cracking run. Don't get me wrong, right? And if she gets to the final, and we might be trying to figure out how the final will go, and what could bump here, and what could lead, and what might struggle if it doesn't lead. And all of a sudden you'll be saying, geez, Ballymac has a great chance to be placed. I just don't find a heat. I don't find a heat in the Laurels where I don't think there's going to be one either, where I think, Ballymac is going to win this. There's always a chance she will because she's got so much ability, but I don't think any heat is going to suit her perfectly.
I think she could set up the next neighbour. We'll get to that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Tell you what we'll do. We'll move on. We'll move on to the second heat because we have a bit of ground to cover. And the second heat was won by Russ Moore Pat, should I say, from Cashin Miska and Droopys Rocker. Russ Moore Pat, as you said, Tommy, he got to the final of the Kingdom Derby last year. There were one or two sort of, form lines that would suggest he was going to set for a big year. And I think he's a dog that really is just sort of hitting the peak of his form here. 28. For me, it looked probably a bit faster, but as you said, it was early in the night. Just doing everything right for James O'Regan. In second, Cashin Miska, we suggested last week that Chris Houlihan, you can never rule him out, and he always gets one, to the latter stages in the competition. He always seems to know what he has in his hands. And Droopy's Rocker back in third. From trap 5, he was always going to struggle unless he took a bingo break. But it wasn't a very eventful heat. Russ Moore Pat just turned it into a bit of a procession.
It was good. I actually stood down in front of the trap, just at the front of the boxes, and watched. And this was good to watch. This was a joy to watch in terms of early pace, just the way Russ Moore Pat did it. His sectionals is 3:31 and 16:08. They're probably going to leave him in trouble in some heats. Let's be honest about it, because that's how hot it is. But in most Laurels, you think if you can continue to do them, you'll get to a final. But I'm not sure that that's going to be the case this year because it's that tight. So maybe you'll have to brush up slightly. But I do think that, like you said, it was probably a better run than that. It was early in the night still, and I'm not sure what I'd put on it, how many spots I'd put on it maybe, but I do think that it was a little bit slower early in the night. This was thoroughly professional. A lot of the lads above in Curraheen thought that this was the bet of the night, and how right they were. It was over within about 10 strides.
Eoin, dogs in form. I know we often talk about bitches in form. You keep backing them, but this fella's after winning five of his last 5 starts in Curraheen. 6-4, 2-1, 5-4, 2-1, 4-5. Bit of a punter's pal.
He is, yeah. He's a real professional. He did everything right on Saturday night. Came away running from the trap 4 box. Ballinacalliga went down well. Dog that there was a bit of money for on the night, but he swung wide below at the bend, and he really took. But the dogs behind him, he took 5 kind of wide around the bends, and that the winner was gone, and there was no catching. As you said about the bottom bitch, Chris Houlihan's bitch, she's only having her 7th race. She really ran on strongly. She nailed the Droopys Rocker dog on the line for the second spot, but she's as a young bitch, she of course she's highly bred, and having only her 7th race, she really showed a lot of potential. And she looks like as if she could make a good stare down the line. But there was no catching the winner, and he's, as you said, he's running on top of his form, and he's a dog that has to be considered. So I know he's going to find the toughest section is probably on good enough, as Tommy said. 3:31, 3:33, 3:25. Like the others that are in the competition. He's going to have to ping the lid every night to advance, but he looks like one that could.
Yeah, 8 wins this year, a couple of breaks in his card. We was lightly raced last year. Just the dog going places. Yeah, on
his weight was a big concern. Like his weight was up and down a lot. He won at 72, and he won at 70, but he was second at 78. His weight has been up and down a lot, but it seems to have steadied down over the last few nights, and maybe they've got him right. So
yeah. That's 74 the last 2 nights. He's done nothing wrong. I wouldn't mind keeping him around that 74, 75. Behind them, Cashin Miska ran well, Droopys Rocker, but it was very much about Russ Moore Pat this heat. On to heat 3. Eoin, we'll start with yourself. We Can Dream was the Juvenile Classic winner earlier in the year. He's had a bit of a stop-start year, but he is starting to find a bit of form. He bettered Price's King into the opening corner. Once getting across him, he was always in a lovely pitch. Hawkfield Ozark, who was probably expected to set a strong gallop from 4, missed the kick, which is rare enough by his standards. And once doing so, he was always struggling. There was a bit of traffic on the outside. Kilgraney Sydney had an awful draw on 5. Beach Avenue, it didn't happen for him. It was all about the inside runners, but We Can Dream had slipped the field and was never really in doubt once going around in front.
Yeah, once he came out behind the Priceless King dog, he was going to be a big danger at all stages, and he took the bind easily from the top dog. Section was 3:25, but that would be Priceless Kings. 16:10 to the top bend was a good run, but there was no catching once he hit the front. And in behind, Priceless King ran well in behind, but as you said, the Hawkfield dog was good third between the third coming into the last bend, but as you'd expect, he faded out of it. Like he ran away below, he ran well below form, didn't break, and he got a good opening off the traps, but he didn't avail of it. But he just seemed to be below form. I'd say, maybe not, everything wasn't right for him.
When it comes to the 5-2-5, it's away and gone, or it's nothing at all really with him. That's he's all duck or no dinner. Tommy, Price is King runs well in second, and Kilcolgan Comet back in third. I think Kilcolgan Comet's running into a bit of form. He hasn't won too many, but just found a bit of form in recent weeks. But no, We Can Dream is the dog to take out of it. Of the three qualifiers, Tommy, can he return to the very best form we saw Tralee at the start of the year? He's still very lightly raced, and you just wouldn't rule out him improving through the competition. But he's going to need to find his trapping boots and to be doing everything right from now on.
It's a good performance to lead. Price is King did the 325. There wasn't a lot between them at the first section, and to lead that dog into the bend is a fair performance. It shows he's really motoring into the turn, and he quite likely raced. Look, he's going to have to step up. He's just going to have to. That's just the long and the short of it because this is so hot. But he is likely raced 12 races. I think he's had. It was quite strange, unless there was some bit of pawing at traps or something going on, because like I know that Kilgreen Sydney wouldn't necessarily be an absolute rocket from traps, but he missed it completely. The 4-dog Hoffield Ozark missed it completely. Like 1, 2, and 3. If I'd have taken any price of 1, 2, and 3, all being in front of 4 and 5 out of traps. I mean, what happens there is you need either do something utterly exceptional. If 2 dogs are doing 325 and probably 326, if they're doing those early, you need to do something utterly exceptional to get into a position to actually qualify. If they're all on your inside, so you had 3 of them.
Go on. I noticed that traps 4, 5, and 6 are all black dogs, and find with a black dog, if one of them charges boxes, you don't see it as easy as let's say a white dog or something like that. There's a chance that there was a bit of noise at boxes, and that's as a reason that the outside 3 missed it.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know why, because I mean, you would have said, Kilgreen Sydney had a tricky draw. You would have said Hoffield Ozark had a great draw. You would have thought 4 was probably perfect for it, to fly up the middle and show it, and lead them all trailing. Just didn't happen. But I like, you have to be encouraged. More has to come from We Can Dream, but I think it can. I think it probably can, Neil, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it can. On to Heat 4, Law Hill Roy. It was just a simple, fast away, always led. He had pinged the lids in the opening round. And, when I was watching it first time, I was a bit disappointed with him in the opening round. He was past as easy as he was. At that time, I hadn't got the non-runners with Curraheen. I didn't realize it was Gary Vojo that was passing him. I thought it was a completely different dog. Just does everything right. 28-37. He's still very lightly raced. He's a bit more aged than some of the dogs we've already spoken of, the likes of Gary Vojo and them. He's a May 20, but he is a lot less experienced. He's doing things right, and he has that 28-19 trial. So he's one sort of to respect going forward. You wouldn't like to be drawn on his inside if he's out in 4 or 5, because he definitely edges to that fence. On Law Hill Roy. Listen, he has more ground to find, but he does 28-37 the other night. If he finds 10, 12 spots on that, all of a sudden he's doing a serious run. So yeah, Law Hill Roy, nice winner. I suppose the main talking point from the contest was Scooby Duchess, one of the most impressive opening round scores, went out after pretty tame effort, it must be said.
Yeah, she never really threatened. The winner was out and gone, and he put it all together. But I would say, from the third bend home, he was, fading quite a bit, in my opinion. But he, as you said, he has an inside draw in the semi-final. He's going to be one that's going to be, on the quarterfinal, so he should be there or thereabouts and get through to the next round. The Scooby bitch, well, she went down in her own third place and she got no run below at the bend, and that was her chances gone. The Slaney side dog took it up behind the winner down the back, but he was run out of it late on by Tennessee's dog JT Wexford, who was finding a bit of form of late and ran on well to take second place. But the overall time, I suppose, is going to leave them struggling. 28-37.
Yeah, the 28-37 isn't as impressive, Tommy, as the 322 and the 1606. Of the third bend splits to home, he's probably one of the slowest finishers of the leaders at that third bend. But there's no question he can play a part in the Laurels purely because of his early speed.
Yeah, 12:31 home is a real concern, considering there was an 11:75 on the night. But what's not a concern is he did 3:20 in his trial. He did 3:20 in the first round. He did 3:22 last week. So if you're in a heat with him, you probably think, I don't want to be drawn right beside him. I'd rather be inside him than outside him, because they're going to have to find a way around him somehow. He's still a player. If you can do 28:19, he has it on his card in a trial. What did he do last week in defeat? 28:32 on the clock. It's not a million miles away from being a player. He's always dangerous in because of those sections, 3:20, 3:20, 3:22. I mean, that they're all serious. The 16:06 you'll have to be improved upon, but I don't mind that one too much. I think you can find a bit on that. But he's without thinking that he's going to win a Laurels, he's a danger to all.
Yeah, he's in one the next night, it must be said. But Droopys Edison is in two. You referred to the dog doing 11:75 home. When Lahill Roy's in one and Edison's in two, and you think, I'm going to have to lead him 7 lengths or 8 lengths at the third bend to hold him on those forms. Now, it doesn't often work that way, but yeah, it's worth keeping in mind. JT Wexler is just a great old campaigner, a dog I know plenty about, of course. And Slaney side Jimbo back in third. I don't think either of them will win the Laurels. I'm not sure Lahill Roy will be winning the Laurels, but he can certainly, and I mean certainly, play a part. Be it a bit part or a big part, he can definitely get involved. On to Heat 5, and this was the Heat, Owen, wasn't it? This was the one that the people were paying the admission for. Tommy referred to it earlier on. To have 4 big names in a heat is not unusual, but to have the top 4 in the betting and for them to finish first, second, third, and fourth and not do anything wrong. Like Bocco's Buds had missed the kick. He missed one step and bang, your Laurels is over. It's going to happen in a heat like this. Swords Rex was the eventual winner. Serene Ace really put it up to him into that opening corner down the back straight and really showed determination into the third bend to even be alongside Swords Rex. And then I thought Good Cody ran an absolute blinder back in third. This was just one of those races. You could watch it over and over again, see so many things. But in the end, Swords Rex proved his quality. He does a 3:17 sectional, 15:93 himself and Serene Ace. I don't know who to give it to. They were nip and tuck at that point. 27:99. There's a very strong chance the Laurels winner comes from this heat.
Yeah, you could say fine fault with the 6 dog, but it was a brilliant run from the Swords Rex dog and Serene Ace. I mean, they were absolutely, 3:17 was an exceptional one on the night, and 50, they were the only ones to dip under the 16 seconds at the top end. So it was an exceptional heat, and I suppose, as you say, he did nothing wrong, but he was just missed that one stride at the trap, and that was it. But the winner ran an absolute blinder, all saying that he was badly drawn out in 5, but he belied all those estimations, and the top dog ran a cracker back in his favourite trap, I suppose, on the rails. He went and put it up to him really to the top bin, but he had no answer either to the winner from between the bottom 2 bins home. He went 3 bins clear, and he proved very strong in the run in as well. And I must say, he's going to take a lot of beating the way he ran on Saturday night. Serene Ace has the draw again in the quarterfinals. He's in trap 1, so he's going to be a big player as well. He has the early, and he runs. He's a professional off the inside, and he's in very, very good hands, I would say. And as we said at the start, it's an exceptionally good Laurels, and it's going to take an awful lot of winning, and it's going to be great racing down next Saturday night.
Yeah, this epitomizes the Laurels, Tommy. Bocco's Budset, does what does he do? He does 28:31. 28:31, he doesn't qualify. You know what I mean? He didn't even, by normal accounts, he didn't even miss the kick per se. Like, it was just that the others, like I was going to say that Serene Ace didn't get a flyer, right? He does a 3:20. It was the fact that Swords Rex does a 3:17. Pat alluded, or Owen alluded to it there, that he was in the mind of most badly drawn in 5, and I would have been one of those that agreed with that. But if you do a 3:17, it doesn't matter where you're drawn. You're going to overcome it a bit. This was just packed with quality, and it was there to see on the track itself.
There's nothing to take from any of these dogs, and I can explain it why without going into too much detail. But like
that'd be unlike you.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But Baco's Buttsy, right, did 324 in, which would have led every other heat apart from one other one. So it would have led 6 of the 8 heats in the round, 324 would have. He would have had his nose in front. And yet he has a dog doing 317, 320, 322, and he's doing 324. That's the 4 of them in the same heating. That's remarkable. Swords Rex ran an unbelievable race, because when you have a greyhound inside you, and that's chopping the time the whole time, or pushing back your time the whole way. And to race the final bend the way he did, to pick up Serene Ace, was a joy to watch. This was almost greyhound racing at its very best, because Good Cody ran a superb race trying to chase them down. And I'm telling you, if you took them out of it, he'd have probably gone under 28 seconds if you took the 2 of them out of it, because he was showing the pace down to the third bend for a dog, again, who effectively has everything, because he starts and he stays very strongly. He was at this stage, honestly, he's in October 19, so he's not that old now, to be fair. But he showed the type of pace down the back that says to me, do you know what? If he wins the Laurels, I won't fall down. Serene Ace is back to his best after missing it completely. He could have been knocked out. He was it a short head? He qualified through the first round. Yeah. Right, he a photo finish. I thought he was knocked out, and all of a sudden he goes from that to be beaten 3 lengths by a 27.99 winner. And then you poor old Bacchus Buttsy, who ran his heart out, but was never at any stage in the race did anybody think, you know what, Bacchus Buttsy will qualify. You just couldn't think it at any stage, because they were just unrelenting up front. The 2 of them were having a great buckle up front. Good Cody was doing his damnedest to get to them, and Bacchus Buttsy was in behind, giving it everything, but not making any progress. And yet he's only beaten 4.5 lengths in a short head, doing 28. Is it 46? What to take of it? 31, is it? 28, 31?
31, yeah. 28, 31.
Yeah. 28, 31, and you got knocked out of a Laurels.
It is actually ridiculous. Poor old Footfield Latina and Ballydag Bella, they didn't really have much chance. Their price reflected it. But you know, the big 4 finishing first, second, third, and fourth, 15.93. You know, when you see a 15.93, you expect to see a dog out 5 in front, and we're giving it the 2 dogs. Like they were nip and tuck at that stage. There was nothing between them. It was just a special heat, and the odds are that, in fact, we know one of the firms have priced it up already, that, you know, the 3 that qualified will be like they're top 3 in the market. Okay, at present one of them is joint 3rd favorite, but you know the other 2 are top 2 in the market. Yeah, a heat that we could probably keep referring back to, but no, in the end, a good winner, Swords Rex. He's a bit of a professional, Tommy. Like he had that sort of bad trial at Shelburne Park and seemed to hurt the hip. He was rushed back for the Derby. Didn't happen from the Derby plate, but then that Derby final night run after a couple more weeks off, and just seems to have found himself again. And he's a proper greyhound.
The real beauty of this performance was that he didn't just pop out and make all and get a solo and do 27.99. He had to work he had to work the whole way. So Serene Ace is a serious dog. 28.11, I think, in Shelburne Park. I mean, a dog that can do that can break 28 seconds in Curraheen Park, no problem. Serene Ace will do it some night if he gets a solo again.
If Serene Ace isn't in the race, does he do 27.90 or sub?
I think it's potentially a track record run.
Yeah.
I think it's potentially a track record run. I'll be honest about it. I thought I was just chatting to Barry Drake straight after this. We watched the race together, and I was just going, "That's just phenomenal stuff." What we've seen there was ridiculously good. And I'm telling you, Good Cody would have dipped under 28 seconds had the other 2 not been in the race.
Well, he's an absolute airplane. You know, I've known that for a long time. Owen, you'd agree it was definitely going to be a sub 27.90 runner better.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, they ran terribly close down to the top, all the way between the third and the fourth pin. Yep. They were bound to be knocking, bits off one another, and it was a phenomenal run. And as Tommy said about Good Cody, he swept down the home straight, and he was kind of staying out wide after them and trying to get there, but Tracy Might, he couldn't get to the 2 in front, but he ran a cracker on top.
Yeah,
the dog will have to be considered of the violence. He's a real professional, and he has a great record. And, even though he might be one of the oldest left in it now, but he's still not a has-been.
No, there's no has-beens in this. Tommy, what was the weather like on Saturday night? Was it warm, cold, wet, dry?
It was freshy.
It wasn't as fresh as the hurling yesterday. I was watching a bit of it. My uncle was watching it on the stream. St. Finbarr's won, and it was monsoon like weather. Were you in Páirc Uí Chaoimh?
No, I was going to go to Mallow, but I changed my mind when I saw after my lunch. I said I was watching it at home. I was listening to Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and I'm only 3 miles from the belt of the city, and the rain was just horrendous.
I've never seen anything like it. I was expecting Noah to appear with the ark anytime,
I don't know how
I was coming.
strengthened Basel by far the better team. So, you know, it was nice to see them getting back into the fray as well. I suppose they've been in the sidelines for a long time.
I wish I could say the same to see Kilmacud Crokes winning in Dublin, but no, not really.
My eldest lad and his grandfather were in Páirc Uí Chaoimh yesterday, and they got absolutely destroyed. I was in Mallow, and it was miserable. And I'm not saying, I was coming along by the road by Mayfield yesterday, and the flooding was so bad that 2 cars had stopped in it, just couldn't get them started again in the flood, and I had to turn back and go around the back roads to get across by Mayfield. It was that bad.
Yeah. No, listen, we avoided it on the Saturday night, thankfully, and hopefully the next couple of Saturday nights they'll avoid it too. On to Heat 6, Tommy. CryptoPunk was one of the big eye catchers of the opening round for us last week. Just did everything right, shook off I was going to say a moderate enough start, but raced into the opening corner, went to the front and eased on to win in 28-19. Really does seem to be loving Curraheen Park. He's just a dog that's flourishing. I think we're watching him turning into a proper greyhound.
Yeah, it was good performance. It was very easy, really and truly. But I showed the early pace that he'd shown the previous week. Even though his sectional was 3:26 and 3:25 last week, I find that hard to believe. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it just on the visuals, and then it's down to who you're up against in a race. So it just looked an awful lot easier the other night. He just accelerated into the turn and goodbye. If you had to crab it, you'd say 16:10. He's probably capable of a bit better than that, I'd imagine. But the 28-19 isn't too bad. He's doing a 12:09 home, which isn't too bad. Look, he's going to have to step up again to win a Laurels. But Ballymac Bailey ran a cracking race too. There's another good dog. Obviously going to have to stay in touch early to really compete. I don't think he's going to be competing to win.
What I liked about Ballymac Bailey was he was out in trap 6 and he didn't cut in. He didn't find himself in traffic. He waited till he got his chance, and then if you look at him off the last bend home, he's absolutely straight, tight to the fence. So he clearly improved for a rails pitch, but just I like the fact that he didn't do anything stupid from the wide draw, didn't find traffic, waited for the gaps to come, and he's beaten 4.5 lengths, so he'll need to improve considerably. CryptoPunk, Owen, like for Simon Taylor, Graham Holland, they've won a derby together with Eoin Taylor. He's not a Eoin Taylor, but I'll tell you what, he's turning into a really nice greyhound.
He is, he made it look very easy on Saturday night. He was never in any danger, but maybe not, as Tommy said, maybe not one of the best heats, but I mean, he put it together. He was foot perfect throughout, and he put it away down the back. And now Ballymac did run on well, and as you say, tracked very well. Like won by Ewan Nifty, who was second from most, tripped very easily and beat him 2.5 lengths for second, but 4.5 lengths back. But an inside draw would probably be a big improvement for the Ballymac Daily dog. But the winner, you never had worry about the winner on the night either.
Yeah, Ewan Nifty was nearly doing a job for CryptoPunk. Yeah, was just turning second. He's owned by Simon Taylor as well, trained by Graham Holland. And he's a half brother to or half sister. She's a half sister. 70-pound bitch. She's a half sister to Ewan Taylor. So
yeah.
She was never going to be coming from behind CryptoPunk, but did a good job just to hold up the others. But in the end, CryptoPunk didn't need it. We'll move on to Heat 7. Broadstrand Noah, Tommy, for Johnny Linehan. He's lightly raced. This was only his second career win the other night, but he just did things right. Obviously, it was a race that was completely marred by bad traffic on the opening corner. We won't talk too much about that. Just Droopys Iconic just refused to turn. He just ran straight off the bend and caused all sorts of mayhem. And that left Broadstrand Noah clear of Millridge Bryson and I'll Not Be Back. They were the first 3 home. Broadstrand Noah. Anything to add about Broadstrand Noah?
Yeah, look, he can improve, of course. And when the time he did win, it was an 8-2, but he won him by a distance. He stays very well. It was only a 16:30 sectional, but it was a 28-26 run, which means he's breaking 12 seconds home, which is pretty good. It's strong. It's very strong. Look, he's only had 7 runs.
That would come from the dam side, Droopy Sylvia. She's thrown loads of fast, strong running greyhounds over the years. She's been a tremendous dam. Broadstrand Noah, the next in the line, it seems.
It's probably where his future lies, a little bit further, like just to get to draw that stamina out of him. Like, it's not that he's devoid of early pace, he's not, but it's probably just not Laurels early pace, if you know what I mean. Like this is Owen said at the top of the program. And I know every year with every competition we talk about, we try to boost as much as we can and whatever else, and you say good things about it, and you might think something different that by the time it all breaks down into a final that you might be like disappointed with. I don't think we can be this year. This is genuinely like we had 3 greyhounds breaking 28 seconds. Right, I won't be surprised, and I know it's all dependent upon weather and all that. I won't be surprised if the track record is broken again.
Yeah,
and it might be Droopys Edison again.
Yeah, it is a real speed test. There's no question about it, but it's unforgiving. You know, you can't afford to miss your fluff your lines at any point. But I think if you are one of the stronger runners, if you get past the second round into the third round, there's a little bit more room for forgiveness, because it's the dogs that have qualified to that point, you know, they're going to be gone on you, and you're probably going to get your run in behind. But, you know, that's really grasping at straws if you're on one each way, the strong runner or something like that. Broadstrand Noah, just a nice type for Johnny Lennon. I always refer to them as the luckiest owners in greyhound racing, Owen. The Ryan Drake Donovan syndicate and the parts of the syndicate, they've had plenty of success over the years. You know, Johnny would say that's mainly down to him, but they've also had some very talented greyhounds.
They have, yeah, they have. Yeah, they've had a very, very good run, as you said. They're a very lucky partnership. Actually, I was involved in buying the first good dog that Drake and Donovan had, Broadstrand by, and they've had great luck down through the years. This one is a very, very fast dog, as he showed tonight. He did the 28-12. He annihilated the rest of the opposition that night. It was an A2. Maybe not Laurels class, but he definitely runs on very strong. Loves the rails draw, and I think even with the trouble on Saturday night, now Paul Hennessey's bitch was very unlucky. I think, you know, once he gets in front, he mightn't have been passed too easy.
Oh, I wouldn't say it'd be too many to pass him if he got on the bunny. It's just getting on the bunny is the issue.
Yeah, he got away very, very quick. He was, you know, he was in command into the bend. I know the two dogs didn't do what he should do, but you know, it would have been very hard to pass the winner, I think. Now Paul Hennessey's bitch was very, very unlucky. The 3 dog avoided the trouble. He was kind of behind the 2 dog, and he got it clear, but the 3 bitch recovered very well to qualify.
Yeah, we know what she's capable of. She obviously that 28-02 the previous week, and she's a bitch that sort of runs herself into form. She's had a couple of seasons and whatnot, but when she is flying, she's flying. She was beaten 7 the other night, but as you say, she lost a lot of ground on that opening corner, and she's always capable of a big run. Don O'Mahony has won in Milridge. Bryce Tommy always turns up, and you know it's good to see him with one into the third round.
Thought it ran a cracking race too. I'll be honest about it. It wasn't one that I was factoring into, thinking that it would have a chance in the heat or whatever. I know it was a messy heat. Actually, there's one thing you said about the track being unrelenting too, and it's you know, I always remember Liam Cashman, who used to sponsor the Laurels for many years, said to me one time, he said, it's there's no real back straight in one sense. You're almost always on the turn. You're not quite, of course, but you're almost always on the turn. And so you've got to be, you know, foot on the pedal the whole way. And there's no kind of, and it's difficult for a dog to get a run at you if you're doing that well and running the track very, very well. It does take, even though it's a sharp 5-5 in some ways, it does take quite a bit out of a dog. I actually think I'll not be back. I was expecting her to finish a little bit stronger the other night, but she did get a hefty bump at the first bend. I just wonder, will it leave a mark for next week?
Yeah, I'll probably just maybe a little bit winded or something like that. But no, I agree with you in a sense. Where there's nowhere to hide at Curraheen Park over the 5-2-5. Whereas you get into Shelburne Park and see dogs swinging off the second bend. They have that sort of brief second where they can nearly steady themselves to get going again at the third bend. You can't do that at Curraheen. You need to keep the foot on the pedal. You need something that's really carrying its momentum off the second bend in particular. One greyhound that was certainly maintaining his momentum off the second bend was Droopys Edison on, and 27.83. Did you ever think you'd see it done at Curraheen?
Well, the way he ran the previous week, you know, he showed tremendous foot the previous week. He'd just beaten, you know, the bitch got first run in him, and but he ran terrible well in behind. Well, to see a fella doing 27.83, you'd say, you know, that was going to take an exceptional dog, but I think he is an exceptionally fast dog, and you know, he came home very, very strong the other night. 11.75 home was an unbelievable run from the top bend, and you know, he has a bit of everything. So like, he's a dog. If he stays, you know, he's going to take an awful lot of beating because he's very, very pacey.
his problem will be when it gets really hot, just maintaining his position into the opening corner. But if doing so, the clocks would tell you like he's immensely fast from the second bend home. The third bend clock home the other night was just breathtaking.
Yeah. I'd say he'll need to raise draw as well. He's going to need to be near the inside, which he's in two the next night, but he has a Lockett Ryan side. But you think that he definitely qualify, and should be in the winners bracket, I suppose. But he got a grand run up front because the galloping dog kind of swung a bit wide in behind him, and he took them all off a bit. The broken dog ran on terribly well to take second place for Marguerite and John O'Donnell. Were great supporters as well. They always take a chance for their dogs and put them into all these things, and they deserve a bit of success. So, it was an exceptional run from the winner, and there was no beating him on the night. He pulled away clear from the last win, and had 8.5 and then set the line. But in the track record, he shaved 2 spots off the old record of 27.85, which was there since 2016. I think it was Jory Hoolan that is in the Laurels as well, opening on the Laurels. I think
Curious Boy, was it?
Curious Boy, yeah, 27.85.
Yeah.
He went to the consolation final after. I think he was third in the consolation final. But it was an exceptional run, and he's a very, very fast dog, and there's a big boost for JJ Finley with Burgess Bucks. So,
yeah.
It was a nice boost for them, their locals as well. So hopefully now that he can continue the trend and step up again the next night, and that's about it.
This was a race of two halves, Tommy, in a sense where Droopys Edison did everything right to lead to halfway, but from halfway he was just in a different league to his rivals.
He's a big 82-pound dog, and he needed it at the first bend because he had to push his way through and say, "Look, hey, you're not coming. This is my patch." He's a dog that obviously he was a finalist. He was runner-up, was he, in Tralee? The Juvenile Classic, was he?
No, I think he was fourth in Tralee. I could be wrong now, but I think he was fourth in Tralee.
He was a finalist. He was finalist in the Kirby. He's immensely fast. It's obviously taken a bit of time to get him back to what he was or to what he promised to be, but he was a big dog. We talked about him below in Limerick the night we did.
Sorry, beg your pardon. He was second Tralee. He was fifth. He was fifth in Limerick. Never got a run in the final.
We talked about him below in Limerick the night we had the road show, and we were just saying that that he was a dog for the future because he was such a big dog and he was entitled to need time and let's be honest about it. We have to kind of assess it with the rest of the competition in mind too. It wasn't a bad makeup of a race really and truly for him, and he had run, as Owen said rightly, he had run a cracking race in defeat the week before. I still wasn't sure what to make of him. I wanted to see him again, and this was seeing him pretty much close to his best. And that's not to say I do think the track record will be broken. It's not to say it won't be him again if he can get that run. I just don't think he gets it every night. Yeah. I don't think he has the good Cody early pace or the Soares Rex early pace.
Obviously he's raced at Shelburne Park 5 times, been beaten 5 times, but they brought him back. They were rushing him back. They were trying to get him right, and it just wasn't happening. But clearly something's clicked with him in the last few weeks. It's what do we do? It's 4 weeks since he went out, or since he last ran at Shelburne Park, and obviously something's clicked with him, because now you look at him going, God, I'd love to see that dog around Shelburne Park. Like, he looks a real Shelburne Park Greyhound 550 yards.
He does, Ian, and like I say, this, like, you think for an 82-pound dog who's not electric early, he's not devoid, or what did you do tonight? 328. Probably was that him even? I'm not even sure that was him. But yeah, 328 on his card. You think that's slightly lacking early pace, which is almost farcical to say, but slightly lacking early pace in the context of the latter stages of a Laurels. But he's phenomenally fast, and it's great to see him at that level. And it's not a surprise, even though I know Robert would have been frustrated maybe or wishing that he could have him fully wound for the Derby and whatever, but it just didn't happen. But you know what? It's going to stand to dog. He's August 20. By the time the Derby comes around next year, please God, like, he'll still only be turning, or just to turn 3 or be turning 3. So it's not like he's an old dog around that he's missed an opportunity. I think we're going to see this dog improve a lot. I think, though, you're probably right, Ian, in the sense that it's when he gets to Shelburne that we'll really appreciate how good he's going to be. I won't mind if he doesn't win the Laurels, in the sense that I know they'd love to win a classic and whatever else, but I won't mind that in terms of what I think I can do, enjoying watching the dog in the future. I think we'll see something a little bit special. It might even be early next year. It could be another Easter Cup dog. We've talked.
Well, given the fact that he is former in Limerick, it could be the Ledger. That's next up 550 yards in Limerick.
It could, and I tell you what, it's taken a while. It's taken a while clearly to get him fully fit and back to where he wants to be. So you got to keep going with them. When it takes that long, you can't exactly take the foot off the pedal and say, let's skip the Ledger and wait till next year. You've got to kind of, now that you've got him in this vein of form, you might as well try to take advantage of it. So I would suspect, if he did go to the Ledger, he'd have to be one of the favourites.
No question about that. Brogan Highway does 28.42. He's beaten 8.5 lengths. He's to 28.42. Like, this just goes to show the quality of the run in front. Brogan Highway, as you alluded to, Owen, ran a big race in second for his sporting connections who have had some proper dogs over the years. In Galloping Sydney, while he was beaten a long way back into third spot, he's the dog you don't want around you if you have early speed, because he's plenty himself.
He has, yeah. He's very well run in the quarterfinals, but he kind of moved off, and it was a very close run to the bend on Saturday night. You had himself and the top dog and Skywalker Barry. They were 3 in a line, and as Tommy said, the winner pushed him off, and 3 kind of cannoned out and hopped off the 4. Who lost his chance completely after that. The 5 dog ran on terrible well. I suppose 3 had taken the effects of the bump. 5 ran on terrible well to be second. I know he was beaten along well, but the time was there. You said he was doing 28.40. He's a nice dog, and so wish him the best in the next round.
So we're down. Go ahead.
Sorry, and I like the fact that if you watch the race closely in behind, the way he came from behind at the last bend, he never checked his stride to go around the dog in front. Oftentimes he'd do Brogan Highway, and he was a semi-finalist last year. So maybe he'll go. Maybe he'll sneak into the final this year. It'd be great for John and Marguerite. They are great supporters, not just of racing, but just in general of greyhound sport.
Yeah, he had 28.36 in his card in the week prior to the Laurels. That was his career best run, which is just sort of strange to think that he's now in his veteran, like he's nearly 4.5 years of age and running so well for them in second spot. So keep up the good work, Brogan Highway. We'll take a look quickly at the quarterfinals, because things really do start to get interesting here, and I think they've worked out okay, Tommy, as you said earlier on, spread out nicely. The opening heat, We Can Dream, Milridge Bryce, Swords Rex, Crypto Punk, Russ Moore Pat, and Cash and Miska. Obviously, the eye is going to be drawn to the middle of the track there, Swords Rex, Crypto Punk, and Russ Moore Pat. But you can't rule out We Can Dream is very well housed in the fence, and Cash and Miska has been running well, and Milridge Bryce will be a big price. But listen, so much depends on whether Swords Rex can trap like he did the other night. If he does, he's doing a massive run, Tommy.
Well, he can, but We Can Dream can shave a little bit off his too. I mean, he still had to go buy a dog into the bend the other night. I mean, I think we don't have sections down to the first bend. If we had, I'd say his was quite impressive to get by Price's King, a dog doing 3.25 early, to get by him into the bend and to clear him. I thought that was a smashing effort, and that to me throws a little bit of a spanner in the works. Yes, the Swords Rex was 3.17. He's going to be a length in front, in theory, or the best part of a length in front at the line the first time. And there's no way that the dogs outside him are going to lead him. Now, if Swords Rex happen to miss it slightly, Crypto Punk cuts across at the bend. It goes up pretty fine and cuts across at the bend. Russ Moore Pat is going to have to do something a little bit special next week, I think, because Crypto Punk looks a third professional at traps. That's what you would say about him. Looks a third professional at traps. As you said, he's developing into a smashing dog. Swords Rex, I can't imagine that he'd do a 3.39 like he did 2 runs ago. I think that was an aberration, and I think We Can Dream can probably improve on a 3.25. So it's going to be tricky for the outside dogs 5 and 6. They're going to struggle to get involved. Milridge Bryce needs to step up, but the other night, as I said to you, the 4 dogs that were ahead in the anti-post market to finish first, second, third, and fourth is a bit of a freak too, because So I think picking the tri-cast here might be difficult, but we'll probably all fall down the side of Swords Rex.
Yeah, it's sort of 3-4-1 the way I'm thinking. Owen, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think the same. She's going to be hard to beat the Swords dog. He went down very straight the other night from 5, and he's very well drawn in 3, I think, and like they're all going to be. I have to step up a bit too. Excuse me. To take the bend from him, and if he gets around him, I don't think there'll be any passing. The top dog, as Tommy said, ran terrible well the last night, and so does the Crypto Punk for the he gets the Crypto Punk dog gets going very, very quickly once he leaves traps, and but I think Swords Rex is the dog in that quarter time.
If you actually look at Swords Rex card that they have up on the website at present, it consists of a 27.99 victory, a 27.79 victory, a 27.94 victory, and 27.93 victory. They have to throw in obviously a second last run, which is badly balked. One ran on, finished fourth in the opening round of the Laurels, and even at that, they don't even have a mention of his Limerick form, where he wins at Kirby. It's just a remarkably fast greyhound, no question about it. Moving on to the second heat, and here, this was the heat you probably wanted to be drawn in if you were one of the very big guns. Galloping Sydney's 1, Price is King 2, I'll Not Be Back 3, Ballymacwhisper 4, Ballymacbailey in 5, and Slaney Side Jimbo out in 6. I don't think to be a roaring hot favours. There's plenty of early speed on the inside. Galloping Sydney, Price is King, I'll Not Be Back will be looking to pitch up. Ballymacwhisper will be flying home. Ballymacbailey will be trying again to avoid traffic, and Slaney Side Jimbo on the outside. Owen, I think this is one for the purists. Not easy to pick one out unless you saw a price and you saw something that was a bit too big of a price. But it's not a race where you go, that'll win.
No, it's not. But I think if Paul Hennessey's bitch can put last week's defeat behind her and what happened in the race, I think she's the one who'll take all the beating. The top dog will probably lead from where he's gone in the race. But I think the bitch would get better into the top bin, and I think she's the one in, as you say, it's a very, very open heat, but I think she's the one who she can put last week's mishap behind her, and return to her previous week's form. She's going to take a lot of beating. The top dog is a very, very consistent dog. I suppose for a lot, he should qualify, and so should the two dogs, in my opinion. But then they'll have Ballymacwhisper will be running on, so it's a wide open heat. But I would, if I had to have a bet, I'd go for 3.
I think Ballymacwhisper will qualify. I have a feeling the top might be favourite, Tommy.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that. I think 3 should be favoured like Owen. I tell you what, I'd fancy her reasonably strongly in the sense that she did a 3:37 the other night, and she had a terrible draw. She got a bit of trouble. Yes, I would be slightly concerned that she didn't finish as well as she can, because maybe, as you say, she probably just winded. She'd probably be fine yesterday morning. But she has a 3:25 on her card in the track. She only did a 3:30 the first night. The night she beat Droopys Edison, she did 3:37 and got trouble the other night. I think she's much better drawn this time. I think she broke 12 seconds coming home last week, which is important. I think that's so she can position herself in second or third, even a close second or third behind the two inside dogs if you think they're going to lead, and prove too strong for them. But I think she could actually lead all the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go 1-4-3. Or maybe 4-1-3. That's the way I see it. Right, putting it out there. On to the third.
We did our best to
I'll go on to the third of the heats. The eye is drawn straight to Serene Ace up the inside. If he does his 3:20, he leads around the corner, and then it's a case of taking a look to see where Good Cody is, whether he's close enough to make his back straight pace count and pick him up home. But it's very hard to see how Serene Ace doesn't set the pace here on.
It is, yeah, with his rails drawing, it's 3:20 the last night, and it would probably have been better on, as we say, they ran terrible close down to the top end and such and so. He definitely has the draw, but the way Good Cody came home the other night, and he didn't have the clearest runs, he's going to be a very, very big danger. And it's another one that's very, very hard to call. But if you had to, I suppose Serene Ace would be the one you jump for with Good Cody. And as bottom dog is running very, very well. He's a dog that, the first night he ran in around the track, he ran in an unraced stake there. He was very, very impressive, but he came back in the second round and he flopped, but he seems to be hitting for him, and that probably has a very, very bad draw, but he's one you couldn't rule out. Droopys Rocker is another one that could come into the equation, but he's a bit weak home, and it's definitely between Serene Ace, I think, and Good Cody for the first place, and Patrick will the top spot. It's very, very hard to say between the other 4.
Yeah, Tommy, they're going to take up a huge chunk of the percentage here, aren't they?
Monsters of the whole market. Like this, the type of race I could see it being won somewhere between 28 seconds and 28:10, and like there being a head and neck, half a length in it. I think Good Cody would prove that a little bit stronger in the closing stages. But Serene Ace is entitled to take a step forward from the run the last day and put him very close to 28 seconds. I think Good Cody would do that in his sleep. It's just the type of professional he is. Of course, he's got to avoid new in nifty early who can break, but I think he's just thorough professional. Like if you were to set your clock by any dog in the Laurels, you'd say it was Good Cody. You know, he's the one that's going to do. You know what he's going to do, or you have a good idea what he's going to do. I think he'll just get. I think he'll just get on top late. As I said, if there weren't two dogs in front of him the last day, he might have gone very close. So if it was just one of them, he would have gone close. He certainly would have gone close. I think he'll prove too strong, but I'm not ruling out Serene Ace dipping under 28 seconds.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think it'll be a close finish between the pair, whatever way it goes. But I think Serene Ace will probably set the pace. On to the last of the four heats, and normally in these circumstances you go, oh well, the track record holder just wins here, but just won't have things all his own way. You'd imagine Loyal Roy may well, and I think if I was owning Droopys Edison, I'd like Loyal Roy to take a ping, make a flying start up the inside, give Droopys Edison a nice little pitch on the inside there. JT Wexford probably shouldn't bother him. Broadstrand Noah will want to be pinging. Gary Vojo is a serious player, and just while he hasn't shone the last two nights, one time only, he's always capable of a big run. Okay, granted he's now approaching 3.5 years of age, but it wasn't too long ago we were saying he had a chance in the Derby after a fine display in the opening round. Droopys Edison, Tommy, is going to take up a fair chunk of the percentage, but Gary Vojo is a more than worthy adversary, and one time only is a defending champion.
I'm going to say I fancy 5 here, Gary Vojo, and the reason being, I think no matter what you do in a greyhound race, if you have to pass a dog, unless that dog moves off completely and lets you through along the inside and says, "Come on through," it's going to cost you length or 10 spots or maybe a bit more. And I think that's going to be an issue for Droopys Edison, in the sense that obviously he's so strong, he's always going to be a danger if he can just avoid any little bit of trouble early. But I can't see how Lochie Roy doesn't actually lead or at least be slightly ahead of Droopys Edison anyway going into the bend. We saw Gary Vojo in the first round, the way he swept by him to win the first in the first round. I thought Gary Vojo stepped up nicely last week. I think he can continue to step up, and I think he should be favoured.
Yeah. Eoin, would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I just wonder what way he will run from out in track 5. He was very professional last night, but he was in near the rail. Now it didn't make any difference when we went down straight as a die, but as some dogs, as they move out in the trap, they may not break as good as what they did the previous night, but hopefully he'll be at his best. And the top two, as you said, they'd be hoping Lochie Roy would go in clear and to run to the bend from Edison, and that Edison would get around the clear run behind him, and if he did, should be. But then he will have to pass the Lochie Roy dog, and he'll have Gary Vaughan is outside, so who should be very much in contention around the first and second bins, and he's going to find it hard to win.
Yeah,
and, he's definitely the fastest dog in the race, but trying to get the run is the problem. I would run for Gary Vaughan, Edison second, and the top dog probably third. One time only. I think he has a bad draw in 6, and he's not running up to this form he was showing. He's way behind what he was, and he's going to find it hard, I think. The other two, Broadstrand Noah and JT, I think will struggle as well to be in the picture.
Yeah, that's it. That's the hat trick for Gary Vojo, because I'm going for him too. Or Gary Vojo, should I say? I think he's doing. I think he's turning into a really, really, really good greyhound, and I have a feeling there's a classic victory in his future somewhere along the line. Who's to say it won't be this Laurels? Eoin, before we get on to Shelburne Park briefly, what's your idea of the Laurels winner at this point?
It's very, very hard to call it, but like Gary Vojo is one that is definitely have to come into the reckoning, and Swords Rex is another one that he's a terribly fast dog. After that, it's very, very hard to call it. There's another 3 or 4 there, I suppose, that you would say have big chances. Serene Ace, I suppose, another dog has to come into the reckoning. Good Cody. There's still a half dozen there that have big chances, and it's a very, very hard one to call.
It is. I'll tell you what, if they all go through, we are in for some final 12.
It would be a fantastic end to do.
Yeah, and it's been a classic. I remember the 3 semi-finals with the 2 to qualify. We had an unbelievable final that year. Like, there's such a strength, and we've had 2 or 3 incredible finishes in the Laurels deciders over the last 4 or 5 years. Tommy, it's shaping up like another one.
Well, it's shaping up as good as ever, better than ever, maybe. I mean, I'm just reading the top, say, 8 in the betting: Swords Rex, Serene Ace, Good Cody, Droopys Edison, Gary Vojo, Russ Moore Pat, Crypto Punk, Lochie Roy. I mean, they're all proper greyhounds. I mean, this is. I just hope that they all the kind of top ones qualify, and we do get that final. Imagine you had 5 of those 6, and even in 4 of those 6 inside in the final, to be a phenomenal race. It really would. I look, if I had to favour one now, and it'd only be slight, it would be Swords because of the fact that, apart from the fact that he has 27.79 on his card in Shelburne, it's the fact that he did his run the other night from outside the Greyhound. I think that tells you a lot about a Greyhound. He's not dependent on just popping out. Doesn't have to have trap one. He can have a fast starter on his inner and still win a race. Whereas someone you would say, they're going to lose 2 lengths, 3 lengths. He's obviously a dog that's capable of probably 27.60. Let's be honest about it. He's that fast. So I think he's probably the most likely winner. But trap draw will be important because he could have 3 early pacers inside you, not just one come the final.
Well, I'll say this. I think if he does a 3:17 the next night, I think he'll break the clock. And that's, like it's a clock that's been standing for a few years. I think there's certainly a 27.70 in him. Anyway, we'll see. I think
the clock has only been standing a couple of nights in.
No, but you know what I mean. Prior to that, I think he's probably the most likely winner. I'm going to give Ballymaquispa a little mention each way as well, right? Just to throw it in there. So down the line when everyone else has forgotten about it, I could just throw it in case she gets through. We can start blowing the trumpet. Gentlemen, it's a great Laurels. Let's take a quick look at Shelburne Park because there's a few of these dogs that would have been really at home in the Laurels. The opening semi-final of the Juvenile Derby, sponsored by RPGTV, and of course RPGTV will be covering the final of the Laurels live November 5th from Curraheen Park. They'll also be covering the final of the Juvenile Derby from Shelburne Park next Saturday night, the 22nd. Droopys got us another holiday. We're the big 2 in the betting market, 6-4 each of 2. Another holiday went up fast. Droopys got it, slipped around second. Had a choice off the second bend, stay wide and try to challenge, or he cut in, and he showed brilliant back straight pace. Tommy, this was the crowning of a really, really, really special Greyhound. I was amazed how he did what he did to another holiday. 28-24 on the bare face of it doesn't look that great, but if you look at the rest of the times on the card, I think this was a sensational run.
And I'm just checking what I talked to you and what the section of another holiday did, because he absolutely pinked 2 seconds dead. That he flew from traps, and I would have had him down as a dog that when he's in trap 1, maybe I think that he's going to do his run and whatever else. But he
looked a middle runner. He looked an absolute middle runner the other night. Kept a true line the whole way.
He did, yeah. What more can you do than do 2 seconds and be a couple of lengths clear early? Droopy's got it to switch inside and show the pace he did down to third bend. It was phenomenal. The night before the first round of this Juvenile Derby, I think we had a few drinks with his owners, and one of them was convinced he'd be English Derby favourite by the end of this competition. And I think he's in the right. He's on the right track. That was a phenomenal effort. But what a beauty! What a beauty to have a Greyhound who you think, hey, he's probably an inside dog, and then come out in trap 6 and you go, this is a real test of him. And to come out and do what he did the other night. I mean, to have another string to a bow for a dog that looks like a specialist early pacer is quite phenomenal.
It's a way I try to write it, that he added a string to his bow the other night. We thought he was a flash bang away and gone merchant.
Yeah.
He come from another holiday, come from behind him the other night, showed great pace, determination, just looked a really class act. Another holiday second. 3 Cannons only beaten half length in third. She's an exceptionally fast bitch. And then Romeo Command, after traffic problems, he's only beaten a half length in fourth. Like any one of those 4 in the Laurels would have been a big player. Owen, did you see Droopy's got it, and were you impressed?
I did. I was really impressed by him. Whoever named him, really got it right, didn't they? It was a fantastic name for him, because
they wouldn't have got away with Droopy's got it right. Too many letters.
Michael Donovan's dog made a valiant effort to make all, but he had no answer to him when he came loomed up to him at the top end. He really looks, a top notch. Not taking away from Michael Donovan's dog, he has ran brilliant as well. He has another great record with the 2 of them. It is an exceptional state final, I suppose, as well. As you said, the three Cannons flew home. To be beaten only a half length was, Bogger Hunter put in a big display. But it was fantastic effort by the winner. I think he's a really, really class dog.
Yeah, very, very fast Greyhound. A Droopy Sydney. I think he's the dam is a Droopy Sydney. So, there had to be a bit of Droopy Sydney in there. Yeah, Droopy's Hunch. Do you remember her, Tommy? She was a really classy lady and very talented. I think she might have got to a final of a Juvenile Derby. Her brother happened to win a Juvenile Derby. Name him.
No.
Broadstrand Bono. Broadstrand Bono was a brother of Droopy's Hunch.
I can't remember the weekend. I have to look them up when I'm talking about it.
Must have been a good one.
Yeah,
Droopys got it. Tully Murray, Droopy's Hunch, who's a brother to Broadstrand Noah. They would have been out of Droopy's Blossom, of course. I think there's one or two Droopy's Blossoms left in the Laurels. Another holiday second, 3 Crannons third, 3 unbelievable Greyhounds through to the final. And then we had the second heat, Trinity Junior landing the spoils. He's out of OIU penalty. I remember her. She was an absolute flying machine too. Bogger Hunter really put it up to him down the back straight. He's immensely fast 2 to 3, but he found himself on the outside of Trinity Junior, who rallied and got up to win by a length from Bogger Hunter. Clona Duke running a big race in third to contain Rahamofo. Clona Duke need to find his trapping boots, but I think there's loads of ability there for Kevin O'Brien and Graham Holland. But Trinity Junior, Owen, is a really nice dog for Peter Cronin, Tim Slevin. Just seems to have it all. And again, I think he added a string to his bow the other night where, again, he looked like a dog that had to ping, lead all. He did very well to hold Gary Joe in the unraced stake at Shelburne Park. That form is fairly stacking up.
It is, yeah. When you look at what Gary Bojo is going on now, but I mean that dog ran a cracker as well on Saturday night. Bogger Hunter put it up to him at the top bend, but he fought him off, and on the side of a real determined dog, and ran out it into another from. The runner up ran a cracker as well, but there was no beating the winner on the night. He was, just trying to put up a real determined display to fight off the Bogger Hunter dog between the third and the fourth, and he was really. It's a real class act as well. So it's a real hot final, isn't it?
Oh, it's very hot. Tommy, Trinity Junior, really nice type of dog. Want to be doing everything right in the final, but clearly a Greyhound with a big future.
I loved the first 5 yards of the race because the Ben said he came out right, turning right, and Trinity Junior kind of almost sidestepped him quickly. I mean, in most circumstances, when the focus is getting out of the traps, you think that they couldn't see that happening, but it seemed to sidestep it for fun and show the pace up. Yeah, it got headed at the third bend, and as you said, ran on again strongly to win by a length. It was a smashing performance. You'd probably take another length off it, or maybe 10 spots off it, just for what happened at traps.
Yeah. And as I said, given the track conditions, like a hell of a run, that 28.33, that could easily be the 28.10. And the same heat could easily be close to 28 seconds. Just that seemed the way the track was running. Rahamofo absolutely stormed home to be beaten at a short head for qualifying. Clona Duke is there. I have Clona Duke backed each way at 50s, but I'm only first 4. And first 4 in this final isn't easy, lads. It ain't easy because it's an unbelievable final. Just looking at it there, the inside draw could be crucial for Droopy's got it. Yes, he has to clear Bogger Hunter, but he's on the right side of what would be perceived as his main dangers in Trinity Junior in another holiday.
Yeah, I think it's in his favour. He has to clear Bogger Hunter early, obviously, but you'd imagine he's quite reliable in that sense. And it's not just it's with him, it's not just to the line the first time. I mean, it's all the way into the bend that he's accelerating. So I think he'll have more than enough in hand to get around. Another holiday, it was a smashing run from 4. He has one from 5. I think this is more of a test now to clear them the way he did the other night. He'd be lucky to be able to do 2 second on Saturday night next. It'll take something special to do that again. Yeah,
Owen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to beat the 2 dog. He looks to have a good draw, and if he'll have to clear the top dog. But I think if he does, that he'll definitely collect. Bottom dog is very, very far out. Trap 6 is a big step out again from trap 4, so he could take an exceptional effort, I think, for him to lead. And I think Droopy's got it as the one.
Yeah, I won't rule him out leading because I just know how professional he is. And I don't think 6 is going to be an issue, just given the racing line he ran the other night. But in order to contain Droopy's got it from trap 2 is going to be very difficult. Moving on, just briefly, we'll talk about the Yvonne Barry 600. Crafty Kokoro once again too strong in the closing stages for Jack Tavern Bella, who ran a remarkable race in defeat. Bocco's Palace 3rd. That's 32.42. Just going to highlight how the track was running the other night, lads. It's definitely running a bit slower. She does 31.98 the previous week, and Bobsleigh Dream 32.76. This was an incredible run from Bobsleigh Dream. She was 5th into the corner. She improved her position down the back straight, took Bocco's Crystal off the final bend. Bocco's came back at her half length in 32.76 with Stories Pee-wee running on strongly in 3rd. Another tremendous final to look forward to Tommy Lyons. This will be live on Racing Post TV on Saturday night, and pretty much an unmissable one.
It's class. Crafty Kokoro. It was nearly like a replay of the previous week, wasn't it? It's just a matter. You're just biding
You were
your
just
time
waiting.
for
You're just waiting. Yeah.
You're waiting. Yeah. She's going to get there. You know she's going to get there. It's kind of taking the excitement out of it now. Is what it is. You just know. It's just. You're kind of going, yeah, this is good. No. She's just going to get there. She's just going to get. She's just a joy. I hope she could. Now that said, like Bobsleigh Dream is phenomenally fast. Has a track record. I know it's not a track. It's not one that's used very often, but she's phenomenally fast as well. Like it's funny when you look at the sections. Like they both did 6:10 the other night, according to the card. They did 5:93 Crafty Kokoro, 5:88 Bobsleigh Dream. Even Bacchus Crystal, who you'd set your watch by out of traps, 5:82 the previous week, 5:94 the other night. Just again, the whole thing is the whole track from start to finish is making some difference. And I know her clock was way back, right? Bacchus Crystal, but like that's because she's doing so much early, and she's a classy bitch as well. I mean, how many bitches in the 4 bitches in the final of the stake, like.
And they'll be the top, like the top 3 in the card. Crafty Kokoro, Bobsleigh Dream, and Bacchus Crystal will be the top 3 in the market.
Look, we had it last year with the bitches over in 525, 550, whatever else. We have it over 600 now. We had 3 of them in the final of the Derby. It's just
we had it in the Cork and Cullen finals as well, over 750.
yeah, exactly. They're just, but again, boring as I keep saying to everybody. But the standard of Greyhound in the country at the moment is insane at all trips. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Crafty Kokoro is yet to get around Curraheen Park. Owen, have you seen her in the flesh yet?
No, I've never seen her run, but I've watched her and she's just phenomenal, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a
real professional, and she has a good draw, I suppose, on Saturday. The bobsleigh bitch is a very, very good bitch as well. Came home, had to battle her way to the front and had to fend off the Bacchus dog in, but she's a very good bitch as well. But I can see the crafty bitch.
Yeah. This is going to be a great final either way, and the beauty is you can watch it live on Racing Post Greyhound Television on Saturday night. But I would advise that if you can be on track, because nothing beats being there on the night itself to see them in the flesh. Tommy, you were testament to that during the Derby. You saw the first couple of rounds from home. You were up in Dublin for one of the later rounds. You saw Coulivanny Hoffa and the likes in the flesh, and it's just different, isn't it?
And he even saw Balnabola Ed, even though he was out at the Derby doing it in a heat of play, just what he did, getting the bump at the first bend, still doing 29-25. Like it's a joy. I was in Curraheen last week, but like you had one of the races of the year too with Bacchus Crystal and Crafty Kokoro in the 600 and that. You just got fabulous racing all over the place. Get in somewhere and watch it. Get into one of the tracks and watch it, and support the local track and watch what's happening in Shelburne, Curraheen. Even we were watching Waterford the other night in Curraheen Park. So get in and get involved. There's a great atmosphere now at the moment, and people are really showing how much they enjoy greyhound racing again. And long may that last.
Yeah, long may that last. Owen, you'll be at Curraheen Park on Saturday night.
I will definitely, and one missus.
I have a bit of advice for you. I know Curraheen in late October can be pretty chilly. Fresh, as Tommy said. I'd be wearing the layers now, right? Make sure you layer up.
Starting to up the ante, and that in.
Either that or get to the bar early, have a hot whiskey and stay there.
Yeah. Try to stay away from that. I try to do a bit of walk to shop the hours on Sunday morning. But, can I say one thing in before we go?
Go ahead.
There's a very, very good card in Curraheen tomorrow night. There's 8 rounds or 8 heats of the first round of the Batley Memorial, which you probably know. He's always
of course, yeah.
And there's 4 heats of the Jory and Michael Henry Memorial unraced. So, and there's free entry. So
free entry. Well, listen, we have to advertise that. There's nothing like a great midweek card. It's like an added bonus, just sort of thrown in to shorten the week for you.
Yeah. And the next round of those 2 stakes will be going on the card with the Laurels quarterfinals on Saturday night, so it's going to be an excellent nice race on Saturday night.
Oh, come on, Tommy, will you be journeying to Curraheen tomorrow night?
Most likely, yeah. Like I mean, like 4 heats of unrace, which has produced terrific greyhounds in the past, and the 8 heats of the Bartley Memorial A2, which is worth 5,000 to the winner. I mean, it's serious competition tomorrow night, and it is a chance to get in. There's going to be a big crowd there, because people are all talk about, even though the Laurels was on tonight, they're all talking about Tuesday night. They're excited about the fact of what people have done in memory of Bart. And the Jerry Hennerty, which Pat has sponsored for years, has been a very, very good stake down through the year. So it's actually like a Saturday night card on a Tuesday, and the bones have been free.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, thanks so much indeed. Eoin, pleasure. We'll speak to you again in the future, no doubt.
Thanks, Ian.
Best of luck to you. Tommy, thanks very much. We'll talk to you in a week's time. Don't worry about that. But that's it from us on Talking Dogs this Monday. We have done a lot of talking about dogs, including in the Laurels, which continues on Saturday night, as the boys said, tomorrow night at Curraheen Park. Free entry and wonderful racing to boot. And of course, Shelburne Park on Saturday night will be live on Racing Post Greyhound Television, the final of the Juvenile Derby, and the Yvonne Barry Track Bookmaker 600. Two wonderful races, which will be backed up by some quality racing on the undercard. But that's it from us this week. Next week, we'll be back talking about the last 12 in the Friends and Supporters of Cork Greyhound Racing Irish Rods. From us this evening, good luck, good night, and God bless.